The Legend of Gollsner. A long, long time ago, in days before phones, tablets, and laptops, in a village by the Ina River, underneath the granaries, lived an old mouse man called Gollsner. He came from a family of mice, medieval creatures, dwelling in the gates within the city walls. Gollsner was covered in brown fur. He had thick whiskers on both sides of his muzzle, and, as befits a mouse, he boasted a handsome tail. He was roughly the size of a 3-year-old child, and he also had an ample stomach, which was not so much the result of his greediness, but the result of unrestricted access to grain stores in the granaries. His stomach caused Gollsner a lot of trouble. Because of it, he had to gnaw out a hole in his favorite overalls and widen the entrance to the burrow under the granary. Gollsner was friendly towards animals, and he was especially fond of horses, but he was terrified of humans. He would typically spend his nights snooping around in the granaries, but sometimes he would venture outside. On one of such occasions, he sat on the bank of the Ina River and thought about his ancestors and the fact that he was the last of his kind. In the early hours of the morning, as soon as the humans started to come, he would return to his burrow. He led a peaceful life and wanted for nothing. However, one day, everything changed. One evening in the autumn, a young man from a faraway land stayed in the granary for the night. He made himself a comfortable sleeping place against one of the walls, and, as he waited to fall asleep, he thought deeply. Meanwhile, Gollsner bravely came out of his hole, just like he did every night, and began to load fresh grain into a metal bucket, which he used to lower the grain into his hole to munch on throughout the following day. He wasn't expecting company, so he didn't care to be silent. Curious about the commotion, the young man snuck up on Gollsner, but when he saw the giant mouse with a hole in its pants, he ran away from the granary, screaming in terror. The young man's cries for help woke up all the villagers. He told them about the strange creature that wanted to attack him. At first, nobody believed him. But having seen his fear, people decided to investigate. Armed villagers began to search the granaries. They looked in every corner, recess, and hole. Finally, they found the entrance to Gollsner's burrow. They knew it was no ordinary mouse that they were dealing with. They decided to capture the dangerous creature and remove it from the area. After a few hours, they reached the creature's hole and explored it thoroughly. They were shocked to discover that most of the things inside looked like they could belong to a human rather than a mouse. Among Gollsner's belongings, they found a white grosh, a drawing of something that looked like a church, a stone from the city walls. Puzzled and frightened, they deemed Gollsner's presence to be the devil's doing. They resumed their search. They were angry and murderous. They looked for the scared creature, destroying everything in their way. Meanwhile, Gollsner got out of the granary, through the tunnel, and ran away along the Ina River. He ran as fast as he could. He ran past numerous bends and backwaters, stopping frequently to rest behind the trees and listen. He was terrified, sad, and heartbroken. He didn't know what to do next. When he thought his pursuers had given up, he sat in the shade of a tree and fell asleep. He dreamed about his family, about his mom baking whole grain cookies and his dad reading stories to him. Suddenly, the barking of the dogs and the shouting of the humans tore him from his sleep. He was found. The chase was right behind him. He could almost feel the dog's teeth on his tail. Having nowhere to hide, he jumped into the river. He swam towards the Oder River and vanished beneath the waves. He hasn't been heard of since. To this day, no one knows whether the peculiar creature survived. Some say it succumbed to the river. Others claim it made it and still lives among the roots of trees growing in the most remote and impenetrable parts of Goleniow's forest. Rumor has it that on early misty mornings, mushroom pickers can spot its shadow running away in the distance. And what do you think? Which ending is true?